Hi guys, welcome back. This week, Sweet Georgia, we launched our spring collection, and here on this desk, I want to show you guys in more detail all of the pieces that were in that collection. Hi guys, thank you guys so much for being here this week. I'm Felicia from Sweet Georgia Yarns, and we're a hand-dyed knitting yarn company based in Vancouver in Canada. And if you did not know, every year, about 3 times a year, more now, actually probably about 4 times a year, we come out with new collections of knitwear designs. We're also working on crochet designs to come out later on this year, but for the most part, for the past couple of years, we've been working on putting together knitwear design collections together with our design director for knitwear, Tabitha Hedrick. And I wanted to share with you guys the collection that we launched this past week, our Spring with Sweet Georgia Volume 3. It's crazy. There's been 3 years of these now. And I want to show you guys all the pieces that are in this in a little bit more detail, because sometimes it's a little bit easier to see and understand the pieces when you see them up a little bit close. And if I explain some of the detailing, things like that, it's a little bit easier than seeing them in a photograph. So this past week, Tabitha also wrote a little blog post about the new collection and about putting it together. She did mention that, it takes about 9 months from, planning, coming up with the ideas, the mood board, picking colors, trying to develop the colors for the collection, and then working with designers and collecting submissions, looking through all the submissions, and then making selections, and then making assignments, and then doing the actual knitting and the writing and the editing, and then doing the photo shoot and compiling and doing all the layout and putting all of this together. It takes about 9 months of work to put together each collection. So it's a big chunk of work. But it's amazing to do and fun to do, and Tabitha does an amazing, beautiful job pulling all of these pieces together and making it cohesive and into a themed story. So for this past collection, there were 2 color stories. The first color story was called Candy Shop, and so this was all about bright, poppy, spring colors, pops of color, things that were more light and lighthearted and sweet and all of that kind of stuff. And so that was one of the stories. And the second story was called Crisp Linen, and that was more vintagey, more pale, more subtle, more cool, more light and airy kind of feeling. So 2 completely different color stories in the same collection. So the first story I'll share with you is the Candy Shop story and show you the 5 pieces that are in this. So the first one here is called Sugar Pop, and it is this ginormous stole. It's very, very big. It is a 1 size stole. You could wrap it around yourself a couple of times, and it's basically made with 1 party of 5 mini skein set that we have. It's all in Tough Love sock, and then there are 1 skein of Tough Love sock in birch to go along with it. So it's basically taking 1 neutral skein of Tough Love sock and then mixing it together with 1 party of 5 set to get this humongous stole. So that is one colorway that we decided to do, and this is with our Jelly Bean colorway. Our Jelly Bean, which goes from sort of an orangey color to a pink color. So that is the original Party of 5 colorway. And then we had some new Party of 5 colorways come out for this spring, and one of them is called Fairy Tale. And so it's not a gradient, but it's more like picking and choosing different hues that would work nicely together. And so we put together these colors. And so it's a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more whimsical, I feel like. It's a little bit more daydreamy. And so that came together with a skein of Snowfall, and that's this color in here. It's not the birch color. It's more of a cool neutral. And that produced another stole sample. So we have both of these samples photographed in the lookbook as well. So I actually really love this stole pattern because it's got a lot of interesting things happening in here. There's a lot of easy potato chip knitting like I like, there's a bit of garter here. It's worked on the bias, so you start at one end at sort of like a triangle. You just start at one corner and then you keep increasing and increasing on both sides to create the width that you need. And then from there, you start just working the rectangle. And so there's a little bit of some slip stitches here to create some color patterning. There's a little bit of eyelets here. There's a bit of easy lace in the colors. And already here, you're working with 3 colors of the party of 5. So it's really fun and keeps changing. And yeah, it can hold your interest for a long time. And then in between, you get some rest with, you know, doing a little bit more garter stitch and things like that. So this would be a really fun and easy thing to knit. The second piece in here is our cover piece for the collection, and it is called Origami. And so it's a cute little pullover that is it's available in 7 different sizes, and this one is knit in the Superwash Sport. So it's a little tiny bit thicker than a fingering weight yarn, but it's a sport weight yarn. If you wanted, you could use a fingering weight yarn as well for this. And this is in a new color that we have for springtime, and it's called Lollipop. So it's kind of a replacement color to our old raspberry color. It's a little bit sharper, a little bit more poppy, a little bit more vibrant. And just, oh, I love this color. So it's called Lollipop. And then, again, one of the new splashy colors that we have for spring is called Raspberry Swirl. And it's kind of like the splashy colors that we did for last spring, like the Anthem and Fauna and Mango Ice and those kinds of colors, Windswept. And it's dyed in the same way, but it's dyed with these pink splashy colors. So that's that color, and it's been dyed on the Silk Mist, which is our mohair and silk lace weight blend. And it just makes for the warmest, softest fabric here. And it's, yeah, an easy pullover to make here. The next one is a beautiful, sweet little shawl here. This one is designed by Claire Walls, and this one is called Spring Winds. This is a 2-color shawl. You can see the colors are very, very, very subtle, but this color here, the blue color, is West Wind, and then the other color here is Lemon Curd, the very, very pale lemon. And it's just a beautiful little slip stitch pattern here to create this very subtle texturing and very subtle effect between these 2 colors. So you could pick 2 colors that are very close to each other, and that would produce a certain effect, or you could pick colors that are very, very high contrast. Like you could make these little garter ridge stitches pop out a lot if you were using a very light color and then you used a dark color in the background. But this could be a really fun and easy way to knit 2 skeins of sock yarn together. And then we have this cardigan, which actually fits me perfectly. I'm not wearing it right now, but I love it. And this is called Calion. And it's a little cardigan designed by Tabitha Hedrick. And this is also available in 7 sizes. We happen to knit this particular sample in a color called Melon. Just very citrusy, bright, sunny, and just poppy and fun. But there's just some very easy and simple knit and purl sort of textures that are created here to create zigzags. It reminds me a little bit of that Charlie Brown sweater. So this cardigan is beautiful, and it's also knit in that Superwash Sport. So it's got a little bit more of a squishy feel to it. So it feels like it has a little bit more substance than knitting with a fingering weight yarn, but not so heavy that it's a DK weight yarn. So it makes for a good garment because it's a little bit faster to knit than if you were knitting with a fingering weight, but it's not so heavy like a DK weight sweater would be. So that's a really, really fun and nice project as well. And then maybe my favorite pattern from this story of the collection is this shawl here. And it's called the Curiosa shawl by Emily Wood. And look, it's just so pretty. It is knit also with 1 skein of the birch in Tough Love sock, so that's the neutral up here, and then 1 party of 5 set. So this again is one of the new colorways for our party of 5, and we came out with a couple of new ones. There's one called Candy Shop, and there's one called Saltwater Taffy, and there's one called the Fairy Tale, which I talked about, and another one called Blueberry Cobbler. But this one is the Candy Shop party of 5 mini skein set. And so just 5 colors that work nicely together, not necessarily a gradient or anything like that, just some fun poppy colors. So that is the shawl. It's actually kind of amazing how much yardage you can get out of one party of 5 plus 1 skein of sock yarn. They actually come together and make quite a humongous shawl. So this may go on my list to knit. And again, this is one of those patterns that is an asymmetrical triangle shawl. So you start at this tip here and you just cast on a few stitches and then you start to increase. There's a little bit of a ribbing pattern up here. And then once you get to the width that you need, then you start adding on the colors. And so these are like little mesh bricks. Yeah, these are like little mesh bricks of mesh lace. So photographing this candy shop theme story was actually kind of challenging. We worked with a new model for us. Her name is Sharina, and she's lovely and beautiful and wonderful to work with. But we wanted to shoot in a candy shop, and it's surprisingly hard to find like a nice, good candy shop to film in, because these are people's places of business and we didn't want to get in people's way, and we didn't want to be disruptive or anything like that. And so we needed to find a candy shop that had enough going on, but then also enough space for us to go in and actually shoot. So we chose the Candy Aisle in downtown Vancouver on Robson Street, and it just so happened that day was like pouring rain. And we had done the hair and makeup for the model at the makeup artist's studio, and then went down to the candy aisle to take the photographs. And then in the meantime, she had to like wrap up all her hair to make sure that it wasn't going to get wet and then lose all the curls. And like, she has the most amazing hair. And the candy shop, it was nice to film in, but there's a lot of artificial lights. And so the lights were affecting the colors of the yarns and things like that, like drastically. So I found that in a lot of cases we were shooting most of the photos. I took the photos for both of the collections, and I found that I was shooting all the photos right by the front door where the big window was, where most of the daylight was coming in. And so it was like being at the candy shop, but not really being at the candy shop, because I was spending all my time at the front door of the candy shop. But hopefully the photos turned out nicely, and that you can see the colors and that you get sort of a feel of what it was meant to be, which is just fun and cheerful and bright and yeah, just lighthearted and fun. So the second collection is called Crisp Linen. And so these pieces were meant to be a little bit more light, more vintagey, more airy, just more airy feeling. And so for this shoot, we chose to shoot at a location downtown, again in Vancouver, called Finch's Tea. And it is my absolute favorite cafe in downtown Vancouver. It makes the most amazing baguette sandwiches, and it was actually the place where my husband and we had our wedding photos taken, because that was one of the first places that we went to go have lunch together. And so yes, I love the spot. I hope you guys like the photos in this particular collection. If you ever come to Vancouver, I highly encourage you to go visit this cafe, because they make just amazing, wonderful sandwiches. The thing that I like about this particular cafe is that the lighting in there is always really filtered and lovely and faded and beautiful. It's, again, was a pouring rainy day outside, and it fogged up all the windows, and so that made for this natural sort of giant softbox effect. So it made a lot of the photos kind of soft and light and wonderful. So that was, yeah, so it was really nice to shoot there. So for this particular photo shoot, we also worked with another model that is new to us, and her name is Corinne, and she was very, very lovely to work with. And so what we were supposed to do was we were supposed to meet her at the makeup artist studio as well. But for whatever reason, maybe, the phone was off the hook or something like that, we could not buzz in to get into the makeup studio place. The makeup studio is actually located directly across from our old studio for SweetGeorgia at like 4th and Main. And so we were across the street from the building where our old studio used to be, and at the bottom of that studio is a little cafe called Cranky Cafe. And so this used to be the cafe that I used to go down to and have coffee every day, get my muffin at 10 o'clock every day, and it was just, it was nice. And so because we couldn't get into the makeup studio for whatever reason, Leah and I, Leah was helping me for the photo shoot, she and I, we popped over to the cafe and just, sat down and had a cup of tea, and we were waiting for the model to be ready. And then while we were waiting, we're looking around and thinking, this might actually be kind of a nice place to shoot because the light was quite nice in there and everything. And the owner, Tondela, she had recently had a beautiful mural put up on two of the walls. This cafe would feature a lot of artwork from other local artists in the past and things like that. And they just recently put up this beautiful mural that was painted in like metallic gold paint. It was so pretty, and I just didn't want to leave without somehow incorporating that backdrop into what we were doing. So when the model was ready, Corinne, she just popped over to the cafe, and then we shot a couple of photos there first before we drove down to go to Finch's to do the rest of the photo shoot. And so the pieces that we shot at that location were this one from Holly Yo. Holly Yo is a local knitwear design director from Vancouver, and we have collaborated with Holly on a previous project called Tempest before. But this is one that she did as a single submission for us, and it is called the Grotto Nymph. And it's actually this beautiful tee pullover. It's a sleeveless tee, I guess is what you would call it. And it's lovely, and it's knit in the bulletproof sock, and this color happens to be jasmine. And so you can see the front is very, very plain. The front is kind of stockinette. And then the back has this beautiful lace pattern on the back. And so when I was pulling this piece out to give to the model, I was kind of confused for a little bit. She put it on the right way, with the button in the back. But then when I saw it, I thought all the patterning is on the front. So I thought that the pattern was meant to be on the front. So I said, we should flip it around and shoot it that way. So we flipped around and she shot it with the button on the front. And then it turns out that the button is actually supposed to be on the back. But I think that it works both ways. It's kind of reversible. You could wear it either way. You could wear it with the plain side in the back, or you could wear it with the plain side in the front. I think it works both ways. I think it's lovely. So I know that two of the girls at the studio, Teresa and Charlotte, both fell in love with this pullover. So they've both knit them. And excited to see them wear them at the studio. I know Teresa's been wearing the sample at TNA, and it looks beautiful on. So yeah, this is lovely. The other piece that we shot at the Cranky Cafe, the first cafe, is this one called Sheaves. And this one is designed by Meg Roke. So this shawl is very simple, and I fell in love with the initial photographs, the rough photographs that we saw of this, and so I chose to knit this as well for myself. So this is a secret project that I've been knitting for, a couple of weeks. And so this is knit in the Flaxen Silk Fine. So that's our yarn that has a little bit of silk in it and a little bit of linen. It's about half and half. And it makes for beautiful, lightweight, drapey, airy, summery kind of fabric. So this is a perfect thing for a summer shawl. And I thought that this was beautiful in the grapefruit, but I also like this beach house color, so that's what I knit my version in. And it was really incredibly simple. So you basically start with, enough stitches to do the lace section here at the bottom. So you start with enough stitches to do the lace section at the bottom, and then a few stitches. And then from there, every row you start to increase on this side and on this side. And so you're growing this triangle of stockinette, but at the same time, you're making the lace, but the lace section never gets any bigger. The lace section is always going to stay the same width, and you're just increasing the size of this triangle. And that is what produces this shawl. So this was a wonderful, easy thing to knit. There was only maybe like 4 rows of lace, 2 are super just plain knitting, and then two rows where you actually have to kind of pay attention to what you're doing. So I knit this entire shawl while I was watching Altered Carbon on Netflix, which is so good. So good. So good. I wish all TV could be like that. And yeah, so this is a really lovely and quick and easy one skein project to make. You could knit this in the flax and silk fine. You could knit this in any sock yarn that you have. All of that stuff would work. So then we moved to Finch's to shoot the other 3 garments for this story. And the first one that we did was this one called Talents. And this is designed by Stella Egidi. And this is knit in the Cash Luxe Fine. This colorway happens to be Laurel. It's just a very pale, elegant, warm green color. And then we had another one knit in Lollipop. So this is a beautiful, again, purplish, pinkish fuchsia kind of color. So these 2 cowls. And this is a sort of a modification of Milanese lace. So it's kind of a lace that swoops to the side. So you can see here. This lace just naturally biases in one direction and then produces kind of a spiral effect. And so the way that she's worked it is that the lace pattern changes so that some sections are wider and then some sections are finer or more dense, more fine-grained. And so that produces a sort of a natural effect where some of the cowl will stay on your shoulders and then part of the cowl will collapse and then stay around your neck. So it works beautifully and is so soft. This one is knit in the Cash Luxe Fine, so super, super, super squishy and soft. The next one is my favorite, and this is one of the ones that I wanted to knit, and it's called Clareta. It's designed by Annika Andrea Wolk, and it is a shrug. My favorite things to wear are shrugs because I like things that are big on the sleeves, but I don't need to have like a ton of, fabric here. And even in the previous fall collection, my favorite one was also the big cocoon shrug. This is a smaller shrug. It doesn't go all the way. It kind of goes up just here. It doesn't go all the way down. You could theoretically make it bigger if you wanted to. And we had it knit in 2 colorways. This first colorway is the Tumbled Stone. Oh no, this is muslin. So the first colorway we had it knit in is muslin, which is kind of like a warm neutral kind of color. And the colorway that I'm wearing is my favorite color, which is Lupine. And it's kind of like a bluish purple color. But it's very, very, very simple. Like you can see that the shrug this is it folded. So basically you would start at the bottom edge. So basically you would start at a bottom edge and then start knitting up, and it has a bit of this seafoam pattern to it, and it's like a stretched out stitch, like you would wrap some stitches and then drop them to create this texture. And the texture makes for some airiness. You can see through it, and you can see it better from the inside. You can see what the texture kind of looks like. It's very interesting. You could perhaps even wear it inside out if you like this texture more, because it's a little bit more apparent what's happening with the texture on this side as well. So once you've knit the rectangle, then you basically would sew down a couple of the sides and then leave an opening for sleeves, and then you just add a little bit of ribbing around the armhole for those sleeves. So this one happens to be knit in the Superwash DK, but we have another DK weight yarn as well called the Mohair Silk DK, and so I'm thinking about knitting my version in that yarn and seeing how that does. I think that would make it a little bit more slinky, a little bit more drapey. This particular yarn is a little bit more squishy and bouncy and elastic kind of feeling. But yeah, I think that I might do that for my next project. I cast on a Mohair Silk DK with this yarn, and yeah, I might make that for my next project. Cast on this project with the Mohair Silk DK and with the wrong side facing out. I think that could make for a really interesting project. Yes. And then finally, for our sort of big finish piece. This is the Sweetleaf stole and scarf that's been designed by Betty Faye Wallace. So this is the scarf version of it. Okay, you can see it's very light and lovely. It's very thin, you know. It's not very, very wide. Okay, it's kind of a narrow shawl. And at the end, there's a lot of this lace happening. Ta-da! That's really pretty. So this is a very sweet and elegant scarf that could be worn in the springtime. This one happens to be knit in the flax and silk fine again, and the color here is whitewater. So it's very a light pale blue, cool blue, very, very sweet. And then of course there is the big monster stole version of this. So it is humongous. I don't know if I can show you the whole thing. So this is a 2-color stole, and you can see it's kind of like a bigger, wider version of that scarf. And so it has 2 colors in it. The color at the bottom is linen, and then the color up here, this cool blue, this is called clear water. So 2 colors mixed together. The stole is 3 skeins, so 2 skeins of the blue, 1 skein of the cream, and the scarf is just 1 skein, but again, flax and silk fine, and super huge and super beautiful. And yeah, it's super huge. Okay, lovely. So I hope that maybe one of those things might have piqued your interest, might be something that might be interesting for you to do, might be something interesting for you to add to your queue, something new to knit. I would love to hear what you guys are most excited about, which project you might be interested in making. So this week, why don't we do a little giveaway? I would love to give away 1 copy, 1 ebook copy of our entire spring collection to 1 lucky winner. And all you have to do is go to our link, which I'm going to put in the description below, and then you just click on the link and go there, fill in your information to participate and be entered in this random draw that we're going to do. And let's give it a couple of weeks. So let's do the draw on April 2nd. No, April 3rd, when we come back from after Easter. So Tuesday, April 3rd, we'll do the prize draw and see who gets the ebook version. All right? Great. Thank you guys so much for being here this week. I'm so glad that we finally got to share all of these projects and new colors and new yarns with you. I'm excited to see about what you guys are going to be making in the future. Please do subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you like these kinds of videos. And I guess I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye for now.